quite a lot, so we obviously wrote it down on sheets of paper. We're not that smart to memorize it. But anyway, for those of you who don't know, I'm Joe's brother Anthony.
And I'm his clone, Jordan.
We have quite a bit of material, so we'll fly through this as quickly as possible. And first off, for any of the guests who missed the ceremony, maybe you were coming out of town, the bows were actually exquisite. They went a little something like this. Joe.
Babe.
Oh, Joe.
Oh, babe.
Oh, Joe.
That's right, babe.
That's how the bows went. They were very good. You guys should have seen that.
Now we're going to tell you a little bit about Joe's childhood. Joe spent the first part of his life in Mississippi, where the education is substantially worse. A lot worse, actually. But after being held back for the third year in a row, our parents decided it was time to move back home. He did, however, obtain a great gift for being down south, and that was the nickname Joe Bob. Which he got, of course, because people simply could not pronounce our last name. There's far too many vowels. So on the count of 3, I want everybody to say, "Howdy, Joe Bob." 1, 2, 3. Howdy, Joe Bob.
So after his time in Mississippi, Joe returned to Buffalo and began what can only be called his psycho-fanatic sports phase. He wasn't glued to the TV watching the Bills lose the Super Bowl. He was outside breaking bones and yelling for his mother. Ask Joe what his biggest regret was, and he'll say it's when he listened to our parents back in high school and decided to stick with soccer rather than change sports. But you can't really blame our parents. When your son comes to you asking to be a cheerleader, you gotta put your foot. After college, it was a life of solitude in Albany, and it was in Albany that Joe met his soulmate, Miss Caitlin. If you haven't heard the story of how they met, you are in for a treat. Now, granted, we may have used our artistic license to bring the story to life, but we stuck to the love story at the core of it. Go ahead, Jordan.
All right, here we go. It was a normal Saturday night for Joe. Sitting in a sports bar by himself, sipping on a cherry pomegranate beer, and getting yelled at by the bartender for playing too much Springsteen on the jukebox. As he sat at the bar, he heard a woman's voice behind him ordering a Bud Light and asking if she could pay for it in cake balls. Joe swung around his stool and immediately shielded his eyes as he was blinded by a wall of pink. After rubbing his eyes, a figure emerged from the pink hue, and Joe saw the most beautiful Eli Manning fan he had ever seen in his entire life. Ah, okay. Oh, yeah. Whatever. Then, of course, "I Love You, Babe" came on the jukebox, and that was all she wrote.
That's exactly how it went.
So after they met, Joe returned to Buffalo, obviously, and Jordan and I, we decided, hey, half the people are from Buffalo, obviously, they're Joe's family. The other half are from Albany, also known as Albanians, I think.
I don't think that's right at all. I think it's called Albanians.
Albanese?
I think they're called fair weather fans.
important. So anyway, we decided they might not know all they need to know about Joe. So we figured, why not tell you a top 10 list about Joe that you might not know? So number one, Joe was tongue-tied till the age of 4. It was hard for Joe to make friends since he walked around sounding like a combination of Barbara Walters and Andre the Giant. He walked around going, "Do you want to play with me? Anybody want a peanut?" To this day, if you mention the phrase, "cat got your tongue," Joe will immediately curl into a fetal position.
Joe always cleaned up his messes. For example, he had a little too much to drink when he was a young pup, and he cleaned it up with a broom. And if anybody knows my mother, quite sure she didn't throw out that broom, and we probably still use it today.
Number 3, Joe's finest hour as a trooper occurred when he fainted on the side of the road. Joe's supervisor arrived, and Joe explained that he fended off 3 armed attackers and saved a cat from a tree before he collapsed from exhaustion. Joe was awarded a certificate of commendation and the Medal of Valor.
For those of you that saw the Save the Dates, you probably saw Joe's immaculate mustache, which was fantastic. A round of applause for the mustache. It was great. Truly great. But a lot of you don't know that Joe actually can't grow a mustache. What he does is he takes the hair from his unibrow, he shaves it off, and he glues it to his upper lip. That's what he does. And he's gonna hate me for that, but that's what happens.
That's fact. Number 5. Now Joe is the oldest brother, but he always looked up to us. Not due to admiration, it's just that he's that short. To this day, it remains a thorn in Joe's side. In fact, if you look at his license, next to height, it reads, "Go to hell."
Joe is an owner of the Green Bay Packers, and we have no joke about this. It's just he should feel ashamed for being a Buffalo Bills fan. He should feel ashamed and embarrassed, and it's disrespectful. Disrespectful for being exactly.
Ooh, on the half of Buffalo. Okay, Joe is deathly afraid of getting shots at the doctor's office. In fact, growing up, he would have to literally freeze a bottle of Gatorade, put it in the freezer before he went, bring it with him, completely frozen. Then he would stand next to my mom as she held his hand and they prayed to Jesus. Joe would get the shot, he would exclaim for joy as it went through him, and then he would cry afterwards. On the ride home, he would stick his head out the window as he got air like a normal Cocker Spaniel would. Surprisingly though, Joe was very calm during any of the prostate exams.
The saddest day in Joe's life came in the year 1996. Pretty sure 96. The day Tupac Shakur was shot. Of course, when Joe heard the news, he threw on his Georgetown shirt and Cypress Hill bandana and jumped into his Dodge Shadow, blaring the bass on his bazooka loudspeaker. And a half hour later, our parents were getting phone calls as to why their son was interrogating neighbors, asking people their whereabouts at the time of the crime. In fact, Joe became a trooper to catch the villains who shot Pac. But don't worry, Joe. Heaven does have a place in the ghetto, and you'll see him there.
Now, Joe does pride himself, as everyone knows, in his athletic ability, and he loves the game of basketball. But unfortunately, Joe was born a little white Italian man. So dunking a basketball was completely out of the question until one day. One day, Joe did dunk a basketball. Now, granted, he needed the assistance of a 5-foot snowbank in the middle of December. And yes, he did panic when he realized how high he was, and his landing was not perfect. He may have landed horizontally, directly on his wrist, in which he got up and said to me, "Do not tell Mom." And then he ran home with his hand tucked in like a wounded little bird, up to his room, and his wrist was broken. But Joe, to this day, will still tell you, "I dunked that ball." And it was a 360, if you ask him.
Joe had a bowel accident at the age of 5, which changed his life forever. So traumatic was this incident that Joe refused to pass gas from the years of 1985 to 2010. One can only imagine the explosion after 25 years. Joe literally levitated off the couch like something out of the Matrix. I'm proud to say that Joe has recovered from these dark days. So later on, if you're next to Joe at a bar and you smell something funky, just you pat him on the back, for that is a smell of perseverance.
Okay. Now that's at the end of our top 10. We'll get to the mushy stuff. Us Palucci's are, Palucci's I should say, we're not good with our expressing our emotions.
I think that's emotions. I didn't tell you to say it.
Oh, I'm sorry, that is emotions. I apologize. But seriously, we're happy for you guys. Caitlin, honestly, welcome to the family. And we learned from our parents, I think, is the best representative of what we can as a marriage. And they always told us, marry your best friend. And I think looking at both of you, I think honestly you two did find your best friend. And you two are marrying each other's best friend, and we're very happy for you. We think you're a great fit, and we wish you the best.
Before I say a toast, I know you're all thinking it, and I'm just going to go ahead and answer your question. Yes, I did write this entire speech, just like the other speech at Anthony's wedding. Thank you. Caitlin, welcome to the family. Everybody could raise their glasses. So many years of happiness for the both of you. Congrats.